If I told you, hey Val, you're going to have a multi-million-dollar business in 6 months, guarantee it. I've got a crystal ball. All I need you to do.
Hello.
Hello, Val.
How you going today?
I am fantastic.
Well, I guess I want to welcome you to the podcast. We call it the Business Refresh Podcast. It's a bit of a funky name, but we kind of...
It's refreshing.
Refreshing. Exactly. We want to bring some new insight into the business world for the younger generation. So I really appreciate your time and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I guess we'll start with just want to get to know or tell the viewers kind of how the journey started. Where did it start and where are you now?
Which journey?
Ooh.
There is so many, and there's stories within stories. So, what is the topic of interest?
Which story do I want to hear first? Your up and coming entrepreneur journey. Let's start with maybe your first job or maybe a job that made such a significant difference towards that entrepreneur journey.
Yep.
Maybe we'll start there.
Can do. All right. I guess before the job, I'll take a step back into university, right? Traditional growing up, I was taught that, the standard university path, education, bachelor's, postgrad, ended up doing an MBA, and I thought, as many people do, that once you finish uni, you'll have all the answers, you'll fall into some sort of magical job and things will just work out. Now, as many people have found out, once you leave university, sometimes you have more questions than answers. And often you're not as equipped as you think you would be going into that experience.
Yes.
So what happened for me is I ended up in a few operational management roles and at Michael Hill Jewelers, which is a large multinational company. Started off in retail. In a matter of a few years, I figured out that even though management was a good skill set to learn, so the people's aspect of it in retail was where I did learn a lot of intimate people management, managing small teams on a regular basis, and then across different stores, across larger areas. But ultimately my passion wasn't in that, and I was lucky enough that the GM at the time recognized that, and she saw talents within me and wanted to develop me within the business and offered me a role as a business analyst.
Okay.
So that was an opportunity at that point. I was still in my early 20s, so I was one of the youngest store managers in Michael Hill history, which was cool. It was a little...
That's an achievement.
Yeah, that was a little claim to fame. And then as a business analyst, I got to be more exposed to the corporate world. So your office culture, which that in itself is a skill set, navigating people,
world.
teams, stakeholders. And I spent a little bit of time in business analytics, and I guess I have a natural analytical brain. So it came quite easy in terms of pulling problems apart, looking at how to approach them, and then making plans towards that. And same thing, and I was lucky once I got into that role, I had a really good manager, and I was under really good leadership there as well. So both of those roles were really highly emphasized in terms of value to me by the people who were managing me or leading me. And then from that, I worked my way up into a global project manager.
Okay.
Pretty much in the IT space for Michael Hill, executing the projects that they had rolling out, which were quite often multi-million-dollar POS rollouts or payment systems and all kinds of upgrades to what traditionally were archaic systems. And that was very interesting, and also within my 20s, quite interesting for me to have that level of responsibility and manage people that were, in my eyes, sometimes more senior or experienced than me. So all in all, it was hard work. There was a lot of hours of work. There was a lot of years put into that. But ultimately, the people up in front of me. So the CIO who I was working for and who still works there to this day, Matt Keys,
No way.
he just helped me along every step of the way, and any step that he could do to develop me or give me more responsibility, because I was hungry for it, and I would work and I would get results on time, on budget. I was good with people, so it wasn't given to me by chance, but you still have to have people that are willing to put that into you. And yes, I was lucky enough to do that for several years, and then I guess stepping into the next stage of life is, I had a recipe that was created in the home out of a change in lifestyle. So corporate life sometimes is stressful. It means you're working many hours, you're not exercising, you're not really taking your own wellness at the forefront.
Yeah.
And changing that and changing what I was eating back then, this recipe was created in the home, and it was a healthy dessert. And convenience, especially this was close, over 10 years ago. The convenience of healthy food just wasn't around. And having had all my university studies and everything, I was able to look at that and go, there is a market for something that didn't quite exist yet back then.
Yeah.
And the idea came to a farmer's market on a weekend. So while I was still working 60, 70, 80 hours, created a farmer's market on the weekend, and went out and sold desserts. And lucky for us, they were delicious, they were healthy, they were organic, gluten-free, all of these buzzwords that weren't even things back then. And then that grew naturally, and I guess a proof of concept happened, and that grew so much over a period of about a year, until me and my partner at the time decided, let's go into retail. Let's see how do we get this product into retail. And it was quite an amateur way of going about it, going into a local health food store and just saying, hey, we have this product, people like it, people buy it from us on a weekly basis, perhaps you should sell it.
Please,
it was
stock it.
Yeah, it was far from the perfect
Please.
pitch. It was looking back now, it was relatively naive, and some of that naivety translated, I think, to our success, not letting anything hinder us. And some of the conversations we had were with IGA group execs, which we didn't know we were supposed to follow some process to get to, and you just end up speaking to people on a human level, and the things that come out of it were beautiful. So we ended up getting a whole range of Flannery stores on board.
Wow.
And then as the word spread about the product doing so well, we had a Flannery store from Sunshine Coast reach out, and I mean, back in this day, we were in styrofoam boxes delivering these chilled products
in a little van.
I wish it was a van. It was in the back of a car, and it was delivered quite simplistic. And these stores started calling us from further and further away, saying, we'd love to stock your product. We're here, it does quite well. The staff is raving about it. We want to get it on board. And at this point, we started doing the maths and looked at the fact that the amount of fuel and money and time it was going to take us, because we had no delivery service. Logistics, cold logistics is still an absolute disaster in Australia to this day. And we went, sorry, we actually can't get this product to you. And the store manager at the time said, well, I'll tell you what, I've got a Gold Coast distribution company that delivers product to us regularly. So if you can just get it to them at the Gold Coast, they'll do the rest for free.
Okay.
And yeah, we called this number, and this guy called Chris answered, and I'm still friends with him to this day. We've both gone very far in opposite directions, but he looked at the product, he liked it, and he said, well, why should I just sell it to a few stores? Why don't I become your distributor in Queensland? And that was how we got into distribution of product.
Wow.
Very organic, no pun intended, way of growing the business. And he did. He got his sales reps. We trained them up into products, benefits, advantages of why we're different.
Wow.
And they went out onto the road and sold it into fruit shops and cafes and all kinds of crazy and wild things that we hadn't even imagined up until that point that we could grow it to that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so not long after that, we went our separate ways in terms of my partner and I came to a headway where the business was big enough that it was definitely a valid concept.
Yeah.
And now it was also big enough that it required more and more time.
And people?
And people, yeah. So I had staff working for me.
Yeah.
Whilst I was still working at another job, right? So it's a funny concept, and I still laugh to this day with Rachel, who still was with me all the way until the end, that the boss used to have to go to work, but the work wasn't what they were doing.
I'm not working on the business. I got to make some money for the business.
So anyone who's sitting out there and thinking, oh, I'm not working on the business, I'm working in the business. I wasn't even working in the business. So it came to a decision that I had to make whether I wanted to pursue this or whether I wanted to stay in my stable, good income job that I had good growth opportunity and the company that I was very, very familiar with. So I spoke to Matt Keys, the CIO, and one of the big things that actually made me change, so I think that was one of the original things, so you kind of go, where did your entrepreneurial journey start? One of the biggest conversations, and I don't think I've ever told him that, so Matt, if you're listening,
send this video to him.
It was you. He said to me, and he's a very successful and one of the most intelligent and great leaders that I've had the pleasure of dealing with. He said that in his youth, him and a few of his friends had started a company, and for various reasons, he didn't continue along with it. And I believe it did end up being quite successful, but regardless of that, he wasn't part of it. And it was one of those regrets that he had, that what if I had done that? How would life look different? And that really hit deep with me in terms of, you read these things of what do people think on their deathbed, and it's always that, not living with regret. And I basically made a calculated decision that I was still young enough and capable to recover if something didn't work out, because you have to be realistic. There is always the possibility. And so I handed in my resignation.
Wow.
And then it went over to building this business. And that was only several weeks before COVID happened. So just as I gave up my stability, the world got turned upside down, and we had all kinds of different challenges from there.
And that challenges took, 3 years of COVID, pretty much?
Yeah.
If not longer, because it would have propagated for a lot longer.
Yeah. So challenges from getting your hands on ingredients, which most of our ingredients were, whether they're from Peru or whether cashews from Thailand. So logistics issues, selling in product into retailers that are barely keeping staff, they're barely open. No one's looking at growing their range and putting new stock on.
Trying to maintain.
Yeah, so when people are scared for their life, they're not really looking at the newest, hottest organic treat that's coming out onto the market. So there was definitely a lot of challenges through that, but it was lucky that I used a lot of that time to learn and apply new skills to my business. So whilst they might not have gotten me as far as I wanted to in that period, it was knowledge that I invested into myself, which I probably wasn't as aware of at the time. But now looking back and applying all the things that I applied, looking back where the root of that knowledge is, it was in the doing. It wasn't ever in the learning in the YouTube videos. It wasn't at university. It wasn't, and people have different learning styles. My one was just applying it, figuring out why it's broken, why it's not broken, or why it's not working, and trying again until it worked. So that means there was hundreds, if not thousands of hours of figuring out Facebook ads, marketing, branding, packaging, logistics, how to send things. So yeah, it was
a journey by itself.
Both a turbulent but yet ultimately rewarding thing by the end.
Absolutely.
So that's the start.
That's incredible. Like there's so many points there where you either had an incredible leader that basically was steering you towards a journey they probably imagined or they probably wanted. And you kind of extracted that and like, stuff it, I'm going to use this and fuel my journey. And that's pretty incredible.
It was so these lessons, if you pay attention to the situations and what is happening, for example, the lesson of the GM at the time that took me out of the store and took me to head office was losing me as her employee.
True, yeah.
So someone, and I'd like to consider myself one of her better employees. She's not here to defend that. But someone willingly encouraging one of their better employees to leave their team was kind of confusing to me at that point, right?
True.
But now from a personal perspective, seeing the outcome of that action, it would be so ultimately selfish not wanting to do that for someone within your team if you truly care about the people that are under you. So empowering them to do whatever it is that they're capable of, regardless if that is a direct benefit to you or not.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I've kind of had like a very similar experience in a previous job that I worked at. My manager was extremely just for me, right? Yep. She knew that the role that I was in probably wasn't the right role for me, but I had skills in other things. And she kind of saw that. And she would always say, hey, I know you're doing well in this job, like really well. There's other positions available, like start applying for them. And this was like 2 weeks in. Like I'm still in training and she's like, hey, try. Start applying. Like I see that you have more in you to give. And I took that and I did start applying and I did start creating, and that really resonated with me, like honestly. That's pretty cool.
And because that was so rewarding for me, in a weird and in a corny way, her action has encouraged me to do that for so many people. And that's that on flow, that butterfly ripple effect, where I've done that for those people and hopefully those people have done that for somebody else. So her doing that just for one human, which I know her nature is to do it for everyone, it's that start of positivity and change is cool to see.
It's very beautiful. When you talk about it in that sense, like we all have this purpose in life, and maybe to her it was like, I want to give back. I see value in people and I show them this is a path you can take. That's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Meeting people like that sounds a bit like a unicorn. But I guess when you identify that person, please take everything. And
also having these conversations and calling it out and encouraging more people to do that, because you won't always get a reward out of it. There's not a direct feedback. There's not a return on this, right? And realizing that if you just continuously have positive output, comes back.
Very true. I guess we go back towards that distribution part. Like you express your idea, right? And they were like, hey, call this number. Like, how did you, I guess what I'm trying to say, was it scary contacting them? And you're going to be like, are they going to shut me down? Are they going to, or was it just
No, and I think that kind of the thing I mentioned was, I think my naivety was beautiful at that point. Now that I understand the cogs and things of the things involved in everything, sometimes overthinking is easy because you think if this happens and that happens and you're 10 steps down the road, which then gets you to procrastinate making a phone call. and you don't end up doing it because you've kind of thought yourself out of it. But at that point, it was just somebody giving me a phone number to call that could help me do something that I wanted to do. So I picked up the phone, and once again, it was lucky, and all of my stories kind of come back to a real strong people aspect, because Tashara, the GM, I still keep in touch with her. Matt Keys, still keep in touch with him, and Chris, the first distributor, we've gone camping together and hung out. So really building those bonds, not for any specific purpose, but because good people are good, and you want to surround yourself with good humans. So
True.
no, there wasn't a fear. And I think at that point, especially because I was still working, the risk wasn't really there. So that it wasn't my bills looming over my head and things needed to work out. I didn't have investors expecting return on their capital. It was a passion project, which I think was the cool thing at the time, because the passion project allowed me to creatively solve these issues without the pressure.
No fear,
Fearlessness.
Fear, which is incredible. So I guess the ultimate idea here is just give everything a go. Don't fear anything, because you never really know where it's going to get you, right? Every idea could be a cool idea.
So I guess giving everything a go, something that I've even learned as recent as the last few years, is just execution versus perfection. Traditionally, I have suffered from perfectionism, and whether it's a slideshow or a pitch or a presentation or a product or packaging, anything needs to be just right. And you will never have it just right, for one. That's a spoiler alert. It's never going to be right. And then just doing it and putting it out, you will actually get way further ahead by making these mistakes and executing. Speed over quality or perfection.
So I guess it's kind of in a software development sense. You're iterating through the product, right? You create the MVP. You send it, you ship it to the customer. The customer says, "Oh, this, and this," and you're like, "Great." You use that user feedback and just iterate, and that iteration is your trial and error.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to pick and choose who you're going to do your testing and iterations with, but the assumptions that we make, and I guess we'll get to the software business, but the assumptions you make at development phase sometimes aren't right. And you can not only spend a lot of time, but also money building things that either don't have the value that you think they'll have, and missing things that do have value. So being in touch with the industry or the stakeholder or the end consumer in some capacity is critical to your success.
Life or death, you reckon? Pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's the flip side of that, which is something I've just recently read and kind of don't disagree with, is that the time of MVP products is coming to an end.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is convenience and speed and accessibility of everything to everyone across the globe is so readily available that having something that just doesn't work quite right can also be detrimental. So not having the ultimate buy-in from those people, depending on who your target market is it a team within a company? That's fine. You can get feedback from internal teams if you're building internal software. If you're building consumer software and you're going B2C and you put out something less than optimal to the market, it will get squashed, and the way to recover from that sometimes is harder than getting it more right in the first place.
And you would say getting it more right would be from like a questionnaire and just ask some people something, or would it be for asking your mate, like, what do you think of this idea?
Mates and family are not a good. They love us and they give us great feedback, which is horrible.
Asterisks there.
And and it's not useful. It is not useful at all. And I've had this in the dessert business, where everyone loves it and it gives you nothing to improve. Whereas I know myself that there's many things to improve. So no, the answer there is having stakeholders on board with you during the development. So you can't develop in a silo, and it's hard to develop from a simple concept or an idea. So if you aren't developing with internals, you do need someone in market that you can iterate with. So it might not be a public release, but it is someone that has got the experience, that is going to use it the way it will be applied in market, versus hypothesizing about what Susie in this department will do.
Yeah.
The lowest common denominator is often lower than we even assume.
It's very true in that corporate environment. Working in corporate, we deal with a lot of systems, internal systems, and they may have been developed a very long time ago.
Yes.
And the comments and queries and whys and ifs and buts, whens, is everything going to be updated? Is a never-ending pushback date.
Yeah.
So,
Been there.
But that's actually user feedback in a way. So maybe they'll listen one day and they'll update it. Maybe they won't. But in the corporate world, it's a bit slow. But if you're starting by yourself, you have your power is speed, right? When you're starting, you can iterate, like we were saying, and
you can change. You can
pivot. Yeah, that's right.
On the daily, which large companies can't. And no matter how nimble, how agile their technology is or their teams, it's not possible when you're working with a beast.
That's true.
As an entrepreneur or as a small business, you have that. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you have that capability, which is your superpower. So you can be on trend. You can change with the trend.
Yeah.
You can listen to your customer feedback. You can listen to your competitors' customers' feedback and iterate your product based on theirs.
That's the power of the world we live in today. With like social media and stuff like that, you can literally find cool ideas so quickly and trial it for yourself.
Well, information's
Improve
ready
it.
available. It's people making intelligent decision based on analysis that's derived from information.
True.
In the information age, it's still quite staggering to me how much of, even on a corporate level, how many decisions are based on feeling or a whim or sentiment. And I'm thinking, these companies are paying hundreds of thousands for information that is often not utilized.
Yeah.
They're paying millions for systems that are definitely underutilized. So as a small company, if you know how to find and use information, you're Superman.
Do you think I guess I'd like to know your view on having so much information. Do you think we're kind of overstimulated with information? And how do we kind of filter what is necessary for today or necessary for tomorrow and necessary for 10 years? Because we could be reading everything now, but not applying anything until 10 years later. Do you think it's important to kind of filter what you read, what you watch, who you talk to?
In personal, in business, I mean, is there too much information? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a lot more information in the next 1, 5, 10 years?
Yeah.
Astronomically, yes. So I suggest that you figure out the best way for yourself, for your personality, for your business, for your team, whatever you're applying this model to, how to optimize that. So what is the outcome? Because if you're just consuming information based on as it's coming to you, That's
without intention, right?
yeah, without intention, right?
Yeah.
As it's coming to you from any channel, anywhere. It's kind of
It's
like
kind of like watching a TV show almost.
it's like putting on, my dad's 1,000 satellite channels and flicking through and spending an hour on
True.
each channel.
Yeah.
That is a ludicrous way to spend your time. People do it to kill time, but
Yeah.
In a world where everyone claims they're so time poor, but yeah, we consume so much rubbish information. One of the very, very important things is managing what comes in.
Yeah.
What comes in, and then it's a whole new skill set to figure out what to do with that.
Yeah. I guess a little tip for anyone who uses Instagram, you can go onto your your explore page, I think it is, and you just click on the things that really don't matter to you and just keep saying no, not interested, and give that feedback loop to Instagram and that algorithm to get what you want, or search for what you want, or follow the people that you want, unfollow the nonsense and the crap that you don't really need.
And that had to be a conscious decision for me a few years ago, realizing that, okay, if I'm going to be on social media at all, what is the purpose of this? And the amount of dog videos that come up is probably not ultimately going to take me to any of my
You
life
might buy a
goals.
dog.
Yeah, I might buy more dogs. I might do cool tricks with my dog because I could see that he can balance things on his nose, but it's not ultimately serving me.
Yeah.
So going in and doing exactly what you said is unfollowing everything and completely removing information that isn't something that I've willingly let into my life.
Yeah, fair. Do you listen to other podcasts, or do you read any certain books like on a daily, or do you have
Daily? Yeah, so daily Audible.
Okay.
So I listen to Audible as it's something that I can do while I'm driving, as it's something that I can do during a bunch of tasks, whilst books, I'd love to read books. I've tried reading books many times, and I've done 75 Hard a few times, which forces you to read physical books.
Yeah.
It's something that I struggle with, and I find I also don't retain the information as much, whether that's a self-limiting belief or otherwise. But Audible's awesome. I find myself engaged. I find myself retaining it. I re-listen to a lot of things as well if I enjoy it.
Rewind.
Yeah, rewind, or even just the entire book. Some books 3-4 times over, because you do pick up nuggets every time. Because once you understand the concepts within, you understand it. So Audible is amazing, and I have gotten a lot of people onto it that aren't already in that space. And sometimes, once you start stacking all these positive habits, almost seems simplistic to tell someone to listen to an audiobook, but to someone out there, that is revolutionary. Going, wow, I have.
Because they could be the one scrolling
Correct.
every day, and they're on the train to work from the Gold Coast to Brisbane in their corporate job. They have 1 hour, 1.5 hour train ride, scrolling their Instagram, on their TikToks, where they could be actually productive.
And putting the way I really sold books and or Audible to myself, it was, well, funny enough, for someone who's done so much education and so much academia, I never read books until I was probably in my late 20s. In my late 20s is when I actually started picking up reading. And I started comprehending that a book is someone's total expertise, knowledge of a subject compressed into something I can consume. So sometimes not at 1, 5, 10 years worth of research and in-depth understanding of something that I am interested in because I've picked up this topic, I can consume in 6, 8, 10 hours. That's a win. That's a life hack. And I think
for like $3 or whatever it is.
So I think
$10.
I think the book industry has a marketing problem, because I don't consider myself too simple, but that was kind of revolutionary for me, going, wow, I can consume a large amount of useful information in a short period of time.
I love that. I honestly love that. Is there any one specific audio book that's like that you've listened to so many times because you saw new value every single time you read it, or is it?
It's funny that there is David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. I just
Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah,
is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, he's just such a maniac. He is such a maniac, and there isn't necessarily so much knowledge to absorb, but the fact that we are just all playing life at such a small percentage of our capacity. And that book always just reminds me that whatever I think I'm doing, or however well I think I'm doing, I'm probably at 30-40%.
Yeah.
And then it pushes.
Because he's insane, right?
Oh, he's just absolutely insane. He'll break both his legs and sticky tape them together and just keep running. So he's a maniac. And, I think self-admittedly, he kind of does say that, hey, this maybe isn't the best approach to everything in life. But,
there's a little asterisk there always.
But yeah, it does get me to push myself on the back of that and go, hey, okay, if this was 30 or 40%, what does 60 look like?
True.
What does 80 look like? And then I can write myself things to plan forward in action. So whenever there is a level of stagnation, that is kind of a little bell.
Pick you up.
Yeah, it's a little war cry of Goggins just screaming,
yelling at you, go.
Yeah, obscenities, calling me mean names.
What a legend.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start listening to him now.
Yeah,
because when I was in Europe, 8 months ago, there was plenty of train rides, plenty of bus rides, and I downloaded an audiobook, and it was Think and Grow Rich. I think it was that one. And I was just listening to it, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And like, because what would you rather do? Listen, learn while you're already traveling 8 hours? Or just, you can finish that whole book in what? 2 sittings. Yeah. 1 if you're very good.
Yeah.
And
1.5 speed.
Yeah. And that kind of, honestly, that was probably the first time that I got into audiobooks or books again. Yeah. Because the last time I read,
probably on the same. Forced to, right? You were forced to when you didn't want to. So our neuro-linguistic programming is a negative association to it.
Yeah.
So
and that's true.
Unless you're forced to again, you're going, why would I pick up a book? Well,
it doesn't make sense.
There's actually benefits.
True. So now I've started on the way to work. I'm one of those people who are on the trains. Yeah. And instead of scrolling, I read a book. I read as much as I can for the whole hour. Yeah. And I'm able to finish. You can pretty much finish a book in a month. Yep. Or probably faster than that if you really wanted to. Yep. But you have 2 hours there and back.
Perfect.
That's a lot of learning. And whilst you're reading, like for me, it's reading. You have your Google Docs open, and you create summaries, notes, and all that kind of stuff, and you create action plans, and you're like, I'm not just reading just to read. I'm here to actually action something. I'm here to learn something, and that's been a really big thing for me, like crazy.
And something that isn't talked about as often is it depends what your regular day or week looks like.
Yeah.
Taking in information at that level gets your brain thinking.
True.
Not just about the information, but generally it's just actively the RPMs are increasing and you're suddenly thinking of ideas completely non-related, and it just takes you on tangents. So not stimulating your brain it does the opposite.
Another thing that I also do, like I wake up, actually before I go to bed, maybe a couple of hours before I go to bed, I put on a black and white filter on my phone. So then when I wake up in the morning, I'm not straight away abused by the screen. Yeah. Because you got to turn off the alarm. And for me, an alarm is a bunch of math equations before it turns off. And a few other things, pattern recognition, all that kind of stuff to stimulate your brain.
My brother does that.
Yeah, it's cool. It's honestly a cool app. Yeah. And I highly recommend that to anyone that wants to be challenged in the morning. First thing in the morning, why not? And then no music for 5 hours or 5 to 6 hours. Yeah. So you're just driving with silence, and it's actually a beautiful thing, to be honest. You're driving, it's still dark, and you're thinking of things, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You're capable of thinking things so early, and then new ideas get built up, and then you start reading, and you're already on a high, right?
Yeah.
And do you do something similar? Do you have like a routine for, like a daily routine or anything?
Definitely. Mornings is generally a 5 a.m. wake up. Some breath work, and I actually got into Wim Hof before he was the Iceman.
The Wim Hof.
Yeah, the Wim Hof. And I was lucky enough actually this year we spent some time in Poland with Wim.
That's incredible.
And a week in the Poland winter expedition. So breath work was huge and has been huge for me for years in terms of the benefits, the feelings. So anyone who hasn't done breath work, I strongly encourage it. Give it a few weeks and tell me that you don't feel better. And that's worth waking up for. So 5 a.m. is breath work, exercise. We'll do martial arts. So either jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, gym, something or other, get the body moving. And then coming home, having some peaceful time. So meditation was always a struggle in the past, but same thing is...
How so?
Well, you
didn't feel the benefit kind of thing?
Well, I think it's a common story that I've heard from others where I felt like I was doing it wrong because I would sit there and my mind was working and I'm thinking, well, I'm not a Zen monk right here. I'm just a dude sitting down thinking about the day ahead. So am I getting the benefits?
Yeah.
And funny enough, through breathing exercises again, I found it to be a hack to pretty much just turn my brain off.
So is your brain constantly at 1,000 miles an hour, or does it have periods of like blankness and just like zen?
It does have blank and zen.
How often in a day?
Interesting question. It needs to be generally a conscious turn off, and I've gotten better over the years in terms of learning how to do that for myself. I've got a few protocols where it helps me tune down the volume on everything.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, breath is one of them. So breathing, meditation after the exercise, gratitude. So probably about 3-4 years ago, I started incorporating gratitudes into my morning, and it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It's whatever feels natural, right to you.
Yeah.
But practicing a state of being grateful for the things you can be grateful for.
That's good.
And when you first start, it becomes weird and strange. And I'm traditionally not someone who talks to myself, and talking out loud to yourself as well. So
is that the hack?
Yeah.
You got to do it out loud.
Speaking it out loud.
Rather than just typing it.
Correct.
Okay.
Speaking it out loud. And for the first few weeks, you start being grateful for really strange things. And eventually something clicks.
Yeah.
And your mind, my mind, got it. And understood that most, if not all things that are happening to me, are around me, there is aspects of them to be grateful for.
Interesting.
And once I'm able to reframe that, it actually changes the fabric of my experience, of life, of my day, of whatever it is. So the gratitudes is something I'm super passionate about, because it is brain training. It is brain training on how to put labels on things. And that's what every experience is. It is your ability to label what something is.
Wow.
So gratitudes. Then we go into visualizations.
Visualization. What does that mean?
That means visualizing and also being thankful for the things that you're going to create, right?
Okay.
So future vision.
For example,
it is a deal going well at work, or it is if you don't have a job, getting that job, getting that, going on that holiday, whatever your thing is. But it doesn't always have to be grandiose. It can be your team working cohesively together.
Right. Okay.
anything that you wish or desire. Rub the genie bottle, and
get it. Oh.
because visualizing, and I mean, people can read lots of books on that. Visualization gets you to step yourself and become the version of you that would have that experience. So how would you act if you've sold your business for $100 million? And then if you embody that, you start putting out that energy, you start having conversations, you start walking, talking, acting like that, you're more likely to manifest it.
Wow. So positive mindset, manifestation, and you could get your goal.
And then we get up, cold showers after that. So the morning is me time. It's my ritual. It is something I'm very strict on, and I try, and sometimes it is earlier than 5, but it's something that I'm strict on because it's so early, because nobody is generally up, or if they are up, they're doing their own. So it's your me time, and I can't get that at any other point of the day. In the afternoons, evenings, there's texting, you've already had a full day. This is fresh from the morning, and if you've read Atomic Habits, stacking, which means all of these things are stacked in a row for me. So all I have to do, in order to do all of those things, all I have to do is wake up and breathe.
Start the first one.
You start the first one. And then when you finish that, it goes on to the next.
Yeah.
So people look at it and go, there's so much. How do you incorporate that? No, it's one thing.
First one.
It is just one thing.
Wow.
And by the time I'm finished with that, I've already had the best day of my life. And I'm more equipped to deal with whatever's going to happen.
You're at the high. Nothing else is going to bring you down anymore.
Well, compared to waking up 10 minutes before I need to leave the house, downing some caffeine and feeling jittery and reading emails on the way in and not being prepared for meetings, and then realizing 10 things are on fire. And
I'm stressed listening to that, to be honest.
Right, well, exactly. And that's how are you supposed to succeed out of that energy?
You're very right.
What about help yourself by helping yourself? Yeah.
Do you go to the gym as well?
Or? I do. In recent years, I haven't done as much weights. I've been at the gym since I was 16, 17. Yeah. And in recent years, I've found a lot more sustainability in doing tasks that were fun. So sports. I did Muay Thai since I was also 17, 18, and I always enjoyed training and the camaraderie and the environment of that gym. Jiu-jitsu for the last few years, and just activities, so things that I want to do. So I'm more likely to stick to it if I'm genuinely looking forward to going, hey, I'm going to get to roll with my friends, or even if it's tennis or paddle tennis. It's something that is active but fun. So why do something that only has one purpose if you can fulfill multiple human needs in one?
That's inspiring. I have never actually done Muay Thai or like
martial arts,
all those kind of things, but I feel like it's a very good body to mind kind of game, and I really want to give it a go. Do you highly recommend it to people? I
highly recommend it. So let me tell you why I encourage it. For one, it is a sport of human chess.
Human chess, okay.
It is your body is the pieces, so it's so strategic that it is first and foremost a mental game, and the energy. People go, well, it takes energy, and what I get out of that is actually a creation of energy. So going into it, you need to front load the energy. Sure, you need to come and put it in, but the continued exercise and mental stimulation just returns twofold of positive feelings of flexibility, which many people
benefit in the future.
Many people could benefit from, including myself when I first started, and just all in all fun. It is such a primal thing to do for men and women, but especially for guys, to just get into a ring and not hurt each other, but get to a point where if I wanted to, you would now be dead, and and you tap, and it's all in good fun. But there is definitely a primal instinct involved in it. So you have mental stimulation, you have a strategic component to it, you have fitness to it, and it's an awful lot of fun. You get to do things that you haven't done since you're in primary school. Warm-ups are roly-polies, forwards, backwards.
And we're a natural then.
It's at 100 kilos. I didn't know whether I could do that. And a few sessions in, you're going, this is really fun. But yeah, I highly recommend no gi, whatever it is, as long as you find a good gym, a good environment. And most places, it's funny, people who don't do martial arts have this stigma around it being violent. And what I've found is that the environment in a good gym is actually everything but that. There's such respectful, humble environments. And anyone that does come in with a bit of a tall poppy attitude quickly gets shut down, mostly by the coaches, because there is no space for that, in terms of no one wants to get hurt, no one really wants to hurt each other. Everyone's there to enjoy it, have fun, and learn. And the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is you can do it well into your old age, and you're never done.
Interesting.
20, 30 years, and you're still learning on the daily.
Wow.
Highly recommend.
It sounds like a really fun thing to do, to be honest. So
come join. At the UFC, we will wait for you.
I guess I gotta make an appearance one day. Do they do weekends?
They do.
Oh shit.
See you Saturday morning, 7 a.m.
Well, why not? Not this Saturday, maybe next Saturday.
Sounds, yep. I'll hold my breath for that.
Okay, maybe not next Saturday, the Saturday after that.
And that's how it happens.
Alright, I'll make a deal to everyone on here then. Yeah. Then not the Saturday coming.
Yeah.
Or the one after. The one after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so 3 Saturdays away.
3 Saturdays away.
Whichever date that is.
I'll see you there.
It should be the date of the 15th or whatever that is.
We will look forward to your
13th. It'll be
post.
The 13th. There you go.
To your online post about your first jiu-jitsu session.
Okay, done. We'll bring Justin along that wasn't here today to have a conversation with you, so I'm going to force him in as well.
Well, he can listen back, and hopefully he won't be forced in. He will be
inspired.
Inspired to
That's
join.
It. Yeah, he'll be much inspired, I think. I guess with the UFC, so with all the martial arts and all that kind of stuff, your mental game, as you were talking, have you noticed that kind of supported what you do now, kind of thing, like in business? Or like when you're talking to people, like, and someone's like bullshitting you, and you're like, hey, like, you're not having any of that kind of thing.
It's not so much in terms of aggression or stand-up.
No. It's more the mental game. I mean,
mental game, confidence.
Okay.
It's funny what confidence, and I consider myself a relatively confident human, and still yet when you're doing really well at something, it just picks you up that extra level, and you've got that extra energy, and having that ability to grind through really hard, because some of these trainings are grueling, and that's what you go there for. That's what you have these coaches for that have been doing this for a long time. They put you through the rest period that I do, and the Russians that we train with, the 1 minute rest period would be 20 burpees, and then another 20, and then you're 100 burpees in, and that was just what you were supposed to be doing while you're resting, and not at 100% going through the bags or going into sparring sessions.
Wow.
And that does build grit, and there is definitely something to be said for not giving up when things get tough. And even though all of these things, it's like, is it linked, is it not linked? It all starts stacking.
Like the habits.
Like the
atomic habits.
Yeah, it all starts stacking to the point where, I mean, I was doing personal development and reading and courses and all things a long time ago. And it did definitely get to a point where I'm going, I don't know that I'm really learning or that I'm really gaining the benefits or the life-changing claims that some of these things might come up with.
Yeah.
And then once you do start executing and applying, and that's the thing, so many are reading and learning and taking in, but not actually even putting themselves into situations where they can apply that knowledge. And as I have continuously pushed myself in, and put myself into situations, pushed myself out of my comfort zone, faced fears, that's when all of that knowledge that was archived in the back of the brain from a decade ago, comes back.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, and now I'm remotivated, revitalized, because I've now seen the return on that investment to keep doubling down, because what can that look like in another 2 years, 5 years, decade?
Do you think also your personal experiences that you go through life, let's be it holidays you go to, the events that you attend, or the people that you meet, like really has benefited you in terms of that kind of feeling?
Only the ones that were aligned with the growth. Okay. So you can put yourself into a lot of people and situations and experiences that take you the opposite way. So it's similar to what you asked about information. Is who are the people? What are the places? So
like pick your battles.
You do pick your battles. You have to pick where you're going. Are you going to the party, or are you going to that networking dinner? Are you going to start your business and work in the evenings, even though you have a 9-to-5 job, and you're now doing another 30 hours plus in addition to your 50 hours plus?
Or you go out clubbing.
Or you're going out clubbing. Or you're going to Netflix and chill. Yeah. Or you're going to whatever your vice is. Everything has a cost to it.
Nothing's free.
Nothing is free. So how about the next season of your favorite series? Everyone's guilt just kicks in.
Shit. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, I guess you pay your time, or you pay where am I going to get that? Yeah, basically,
Well, it's opportunity cost. And I think the reason why a lot of people can't accurately calculate the opportunity cost of what they're not doing is because they don't believe that they can do the thing. So if I told you, hey Val, you're going to have a multi-million-dollar business in 6 months. Guarantee it. I've got a crystal ball. All I need you to do is put in 7 hours a day outside of your regular time job for the next 6 months. And you're going to have millions of dollars. You doing it?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Dropping this mark right now and starting.
So
we'll end this now.
So why aren't you doing it?
Yeah.
Why aren't any of us doing it, right? It is the pure lack of belief that our actions will lead to that outcome.
Belief is such a big thing. Self-belief, or might get validation from someone else, and then someone else just brings you down. You're like, holy crap, do I have something? But like deep down, you believe that you should believe that you do have it.
Yeah, belief that conversations like this are going to inspire at least one person to do something better. Yeah.
I guess rolling back so far back to the start, we were talking about mentors and stuff like that. Yep. Do you currently have a mentor, or how do you seek a mentor maybe? Like, do you have any advice for people like that?
Yeah, it's the people that pulled me forward, I guess, were always my leaders. My leaders True. Within my roles or jobs. I never really had someone that mentored me actively, and
not someone you can just call and be like, hey, today I did this and this.
Yeah, I had a few friends who were often in similar situations to me, so switched on people in the trenches, just bouncing off each other. That was and that was super helpful with lacking anything else. And it wasn't because I was too smart or too good for a mentor. Quite the opposite. It was, I didn't know how to go about finding someone that inspired me. How do you reach out? What do you offer them? That awkward ask, will you be my mentor? It's like asking your first girlfriend out.
Awkward.
Yeah, awkward, right? You're like, hey, you want to hold hands. And that's actually one of the big reasons. So I'm currently a mentor at the Griffith University Industry Mentor Program.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mentor the students that want to build businesses, that want to be entrepreneurs, that come out of school. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, because I was in that situation, and I would have loved if there was some way that someone could just give a helping hand.
Just that little bit.
Just that, yeah. I'm not doing anything. I'm just guiding these people. And at the end of the day, if they don't execute, that's on them. I know that their outcomes are not my successes or failures, but I can give back my knowledge and experience, which is to me something quite easy.
Yep.
And the value that can provide to someone is life-changing.
Definitely. How did you get amongst it? Like, why? Well, I understand the why, but the how. How did you get yourself into this position to offer the help? Like with Griffith Uni, for example, did someone reach out, or did you reach out and you're like, I'm doing this?
So no, they reached out to me. I guess LinkedIn is that's the beauty of LinkedIn now, that people start following your journey and seeing what you do, and you share your successes. And they did reach out to me and wanted me to be involved. And I came to a few events, and they said, yeah, it'd be great to have you part of the cohort or part of the university. So, and I looked at it as a pretty cool. I was pretty chuffed, going, hey, I can actually help someone out.
Yeah.
And same thing. It's funny because even on both sides, you don't want to invest. I don't want to invest my time and effort into someone who's not actively asking for help, because otherwise you'll just walk around the world trying to fix everyone and everything, which is not anyone's place to be.
Yeah.
So at the same time, how do I find people to help? So on the other side of that coin was like, oh, there's a whole bunch of people seeking mentors, and it was cool of Griffith University, to put the hand out and say, we'd love you to be part of the industry mentoring program. Wow,
that's pretty cool, because it kind of circles back from when you had your CIO or your other leadership people, and they're like, go, this is the pathway for you, and you're now that hand there.
Correct.
Paving, which is pretty cool.
It is very cool.
Wow.
It is very cool, and I enjoy it. And one of the students that I have right now is looking at starting her own game design studio. And similarly, she's thinking, like many of us do, quite small, and thinking maybe this is something I can do in 5-10 years. And just yesterday, I encouraged her that, hey, rather than that being a pipe dream, why don't we, as part of this mentorship, start writing your business plan for your future business?
Was she like piped up?
She was ecstatic and excited. So, I look forward to whatever comes out of that. And part of this reason why I asked her to do that, and the story I shared, was in my Masters of Business at my MBA level, one of my assessments was to write a business plan. Mm-hmm. And that was a business plan I wrote on Go Raw Desserts before it was what it was. And when I turned it into the company that it is, I actually used that business plan that I wrote at university. So
there you go.
Yeah, not everything we do in school is completely useless, children.
You will learn something.
You will learn something if you pay attention.
Yes.
But
just don't get distracted. Don't do the scrolling. Play minimum games. And you might be able to take in some cool information.
So it was another thing that I did. I executed, going, okay, I made a business plan, and then I followed a business plan, created a company out of it, and then ultimately sold that company.
And what now then? You sold that company. What now?
Sold that company, took a few months of travel and
As you should. You
as
probably
I should.
deserve it.
Yeah, so learning more about work-life balance and knowing that working 80 hours a week is not a flex, but the flex is actually the work-life balance. And some people go both ways. Some people think that working 20 hours a week on a laptop next to a pool is also a flex, whilst they're not earning any money doing it. So, hey, if you're on YouTube or you're Mr. Beast, then good on you. But if you're not earning the money or the potential that you know you could, perhaps put in full time. But next, so it took a few months to travel. Have now come back and with a long-term friend and colleague of mine started a software company, a B2B SaaS company building an AI platform.
Nice.
And that is now we've built the product. We've spent quite a lot of time and investment into this new company, and very glad and happy to see it all come together. Similarly, from a conversation, almost a napkin, to fruition. Yeah. A company and staff, and seeing this software do things that it used to take employees days to do, and now translating all of that workflow and all of that knowledge into seconds of processing and outputting amazing things in 3D and augmented reality. Wow. And the rest of it. So now playing in the tech space, which is very different to food.
It is, but you've played around with it before.
Yeah, in IT.
Yeah.
But the business principles are the same. So it doesn't matter whether you're selling things on Amazon, whether you're running a lemonade stall in front of your house, desserts or tech, the principles of the business remain the same. So when people have these pipe dreams of what they could do and should do and the reasons of why they're not doing it, I challenge that and say that you can do something on a small scale. And even more challenging, which is something I've learned in my 30s, is if you have an amazing idea, and it's genuinely is amazing, and the only reason you're not executing it is because you don't have funds. There is so many people in this world that have capital and are looking to invest money into things. So
how would you find them?
Easily, very easily.
Really?
Fun fact, there's entire databases of these people.
Do you know it by name?
You can go onto Airtree, I believe it is, and type in VC or angel investor list, and it will give you entire databases of venture capital, private equity, angel lists of companies that are looking to invest not only into real quote unquote businesses, but also pre-seed and idea stage businesses. So if you're someone that has an amazing idea that you can convey that value and prove to someone how you can commercialize it and that you're willing to do the work, people will give you not only hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars to make that happen.
Shocking.
It exists. It is shocking. So your excuse, whatever it is,
it's like down here. It doesn't exist.
It's down here, right?
Yeah. What if let's say?
Yeah, let's say it.
Let's say that does not happen. What other pathways do you see? Is it pre-accelerators, if you know any of them? Is it grants, or both, or everything at once?
All of the above.
Yeah.
All of the above. So accelerators are cool because they're very structured. They guide you. A lot of them are industry specific as well. So I've done a range of them both in food and now in tech as well. And it's great because it's industry specific and also the networks that you can build out of those. So networks is a huge component of making life easier. It's not vital. If you're amazing and you're a one-man band and a hero, you can succeed. It's just a lot easier if you meet the right people, and it's a mutual benefit. Quite often you meet someone that will benefit out of what you're doing, and vice versa, you will benefit out of the connections or contracts that they can offer you. So there is funding available in, so not only VC, private equity, but then you have, like you said, grants, you have accelerators, you also have friends and family. Something that's overlooked quite often. And if you think that you can, who was it? Hormozy recently said, if I offered you my Lamborghini that was worth $500,000, and I said, I'll give it to you for 50 grand, would you buy it? And people were like, yeah. Would you come up with 50 grand? Yes. So it's like, okay, so you can get $50,000. You just don't, once again, you don't have the belief that you can turn it into $500,000.
Yeah.
So it's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness.
We're thinking too small in the box.
Within the box. Yeah, within the box.
Instead of outside that box.
And it's sometimes saying these things to people upsets them because we all like our stories because they bring us comfort.
Excuses.
They bring us comfort because I am where I am and because of X, Y, and Z. And if someone challenges your framework of thinking, and if they were right, you would have to restructure your whole framework of life and existence.
Yeah.
And that's
confronting.
Oh, it's confronting.
It's like, damn, I learned all of this and now someone said it's completely wrong. What is real life?
Yeah, and people just go, you know what?
You're wrong.
You're wrong. You're wrong. My Netflix series is out. I gotta go. Too true. Too true.
Yeah, too true.
So,
I've seen it happen too many times. Yeah.
And look, I am at no shortage of people around me that are so capable, and they just won't get out of their own way.
Very, very fun, but not fun at the same time. Just get it done.
Well, once you realize it's a game, you can play it like it is.
True.
And then you can win it.
So you kind of want to have some tools behind you to play that game.
Mm-hmm.
Any tools you recommend for businesses, new entrepreneurs then? That will help them in one way or another. Could it be a Notion? Could it be like, I don't know, productivity? Or is it all just a fad?
No, look, I use Notion. I've recently converted to Notion.
From what?
From OneNote, mainly.
Okay.
So my note
ancient.
Yeah, ancient. It was ancient.
Yeah. It's good for its time, that's for sure.
Amazing.
I still use it, but it's still ancient.
But the answer is back to just doing it and finding your way of doing it, right? So different personalities will organize differently. The student, one of the mentoree students, asked me, how do I time manage, right? It's such an open-ended question of going, well...
How do you cook?
Yeah, right? That's right. So the answer is going to be so individual, but the answer is going to be found in you simply doing it. And if you do it, and if you have enough self-awareness to realize what's not working, then you'll be able to go through and change, reassess it, and improve it. But this is that whole... trying to find the ultimate note-taking, trying to find, and we end up with computer systems that can take down the International Space Station, and yet we don't have a business logo. Yeah.
And that's kind of where all those like scrolling, you get so many ideas you want to try. To be honest, I have about 45 tabs open from maybe some creative videos that I've watched of people like, hey, this tool can do this, 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 and this. And I'm like, oh, I got to try it. I'm kind of overwhelmed by how many there are now in all sorts of things. Yep. Could it be the Notion and optimize and put it back into a Zapier that goes into Google Drive, that goes into whatever. Your breath, like there's not enough breath in the word in the sentence to finish the productivity pipeline.
So the answer to that is, what are you actually doing that needs improving? If you're spending 2-3 hours comparing tools and pricing models of some software that you're most likely going to use once or twice a month, that's a bad investment of your time.
True. Yeah.
If you're doing something for 4 or 5 hours every day and you think there's a better way of doing it, go for it, son.
Pick your battles again.
Pick your battles. It's funny because it kind of goes back to all the similar framework of decision making.
Yeah. It's honestly nuts.
But the simplicity is the stupid part. Because
we abstract so many things.
Well, people hear it, and me included, so many things where I think it needs to be complicated or convoluted or basically ununderstandable.
That sounds corporate-y.
Yeah,
very
right?
corporate-y, yeah.
For it to be valuable.
Yeah.
But then you figure out that it actually is quite the opposite.
Yeah, you can literally do everything with almost a single tool. Well, let's say, if you want to create a website, right? What do you need? You can even do WordPress or all those no-code builders now. Like, you don't need anything.
You can have a shitty $600 laptop with Microsoft Office suite on it, and you can basically run yourself a multi-million-dollar business.
If that, Google Docs, for free even.
For free.
It doesn't matter, right?
For free.
So many free tools out there. Do you highly rate this tool, ChatGPT, or alternative ones? Do you like it?
I have multiple views on it. I use it. I use it like everyone. I use it a lot. I use it in quite advanced ways. So I've trained my own GPTs, how you can train and add your own data to it. So it's got an in-depth knowledge of a lot of my data. So we can have actual conversations rather than hypotheticals or basic. What I still see at this point is people using it like a basic chatbot back and forwards. I've created GPT, which is a prompt GPT, and that writes my prompts for me to create new GPTs. So it's my own prompt writer, because the quality of a prompt is going to also determine the quality of the output. So my prompt writing GPT will write the parameters for me to then give to my new GPT, so it knows who it is, what it's supposed to do, what I'm going to give it, the expectation that I have out of it. And then I go in quite in depth explaining the scenario. And I find that these conversations get quite in depth and they get quite useful. And when I see other people using it, I kind of do giggle a little bit to myself, because they're like, give me a good reply to an email that is bad, and it would just spit out. And the way I explain it to people is like walking up to a stranger on the street and telling it that. Saying some of these things that you guys are typing. Huh? Yeah, it's like that's as good as it's going to get. So if you're giving it the context, the brand, the tone, the outcome, your voice, so not your voice as in physically, which you can also train 11 Labs and all these AI tools, but you can feed it a bunch of content you've written, whether it's emails, whether it's your LinkedIn posts, so it understands your writing style. So the output that it's creating is going to be in your style of writing. Understanding your company. So I will have certain chats that will go on for a very, very long period of time, and we'll work through all kinds of problems, and then I'll actually feed that data back into it as a file, as training data, so it retains all of those conversations even after I close the windows.
That's a bit of a hack.
It is.
And not many people utilize it.
Underutilized.
To be honest, I was kind of that more recently than not.
Yeah.
Like I've been using it since day one.
Yes.
And I played around with it, and I was like, this is this, and this. But I think when I was with you recently, and you kind of showed your potential when you... Anyway, that kind of mime blew me a bit, and I definitely utilized that a bit more. But I'd be interested to see more of your hacks.
It is. It's such a powerful tool, and it's still in its infancy stages now, and it is already so capable to not do your job for you, but help you do your job better. That's I think
Streamline it.
Yeah, how I challenge people to look at it in its current format is how can it assist you in doing what you do better? So not you doing less, but you having a better output.
And more work. You can
and
output more work.
Quality. And one of the things I often do use it for is actually also giving me questions. Sometimes understanding what question to ask is more important than trying to figure out the answer to the wrong question. So if currently we're looking at capital raising in this round for the AI company.
Is it public? Can I join?
It's not public yet, but you know what? If you want to invest minimum 7 figures, then come talk to us.
Give me a couple of years.
And
actually, give me 6 months.
So when you don't know everything about a field, what questions do you ask about it? And the old school way of doing it is you read articles, you watch videos, you watch this. But if I have a complete high-level framework of the pitfalls, of the positives, what to look out for, what is the difference between different funding types, what are safe notes, convertible notes, what are price strands, all of that kind of stuff. And then asking questions about questions, you start creating a whole matrix of understanding until you're able to say that you have a pretty deep understanding of a full topic versus reading headlines.
So you're not walking into those meetings with like them asking you a question, you're going to be stumped because it wasn't in that article or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point. I've definitely used very similar methods for either, let's say, going to a job interview and you're like, what questions for this type of role, and just not study it more or less, but just understand those kind of contexts can be asked.
Well, it gives you the playing field.
Yeah.
Understanding where what is.
Interesting. Lovely. I have nothing else.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing the time, the space, the moment.
It was an incredible time. I loved having a chat with you. Do you have any? Actually, I have one more thing for you.
Please.
Let's say you're having the worst day of your life. Not worst day. Let's say a bad day.
Yeah.
Not a worst day, a bad day. Like, how do you overcome that day?
Breath work. It's funny. It's a management tool that if you're having, and we all have complete spaz outs, right? And if you stop, whether you do box breathing, I mean, Navy SEALs use it when they're in a war, life or death situation. It's pretty much the first thing is I need to become present, because if I'm reacting from an emotional point of view, it's nothing's going to get better, put it that way. So bring myself back to the present moment, self-regulate.
What does that mean?
Regulate my emotions.
Okay.
Regulate my thoughts, which come as a result of those. So breathing is a huge part. If there's a active cause of that, potentially seeing, is it worthwhile removing yourself for minutes, hours, days, weeks, whatever the thing is, stepping away from a situation and making decisions that are well thought out.
So don't just react instantly, someone asks you a question or something, just leave it there on the table kind of thing, walk away, have some food, and then listen to it?
Yeah. Highly reactive actions have a higher likelihood of negative impact.
Like upsetting someone or making the wrong decision.
Giving you an undesirable outcome. So another thing that one of my managers taught me early on was when you're writing a bad email, a nasty email you don't fire people over emails, but in that kind of sense, is you always sleep on it. So you can write it. You leave it in your drafts. The next morning you reread it and you send it. And
if you want to.
well, you'll send a version of it, but I'll tell you what, most often, majority of the time, there will be severe edits to that email, and they will generally decrease the level of conflict that such a situation would create. So the whole, and then I pulled that apart, thinking, okay, so really we're removing ourselves from the situation, we're reducing our emotional investment reaction in that situation, and thinking things through clearly. So if that works for an email, it works for most situations. And I don't know if it's the solution to life, but it certainly is a good way to be more rational.
Be present rather than emotional.
Present.
Yeah.
I mean, presence in anything, right? Whether you're present with a conversation, whether you're present with your staff, it's a huge thing. And people feel it. People feel presence.
Very true. Well, on that note, actually, let's start something new. And by new, I mean, for our next speaker, right, whoever that may be, I would like you to ask them a question, or for them a question that they will have to answer, and maybe one piece of advice. You don't know where they're from, where they are. What's one piece of advice would you give them, and one question that you would like answered?
Okay, well, I'll just keep on with the theme, and I'll say that how do you bring yourself into the present moment? What is your way, your technique, or your protocol of bringing yourself into now? And a piece of advice.
Pretend you're mentoring someone you've never met.
It's simple. It's be kind.
Be kind.
Be kind to people for no reason. Kindness, it's infectious, it's nice, it's
people laugh, people are happy.
Yeah.
I agree. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I've always tried to be kind. Well, I am kind, I hope.
I don't know. I haven't got anything but water since I've walked in here.
No. But yeah. No, honestly, thank you so much for coming. We've had an amazing conversation, and I think we have quite a few points that people can take within themselves, be it reading, listening, stop scrolling, and just giving things a go, because that's ultimately what we talk about.
That's actually it. Whatever you've learned, just actually do one of them. Please.
Just do it.
One of them.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just do it today.
Yeah.
Why tomorrow?
Yeah.
Why the next week? Go to the gym if you want to go to gym today. Just get it done.
Now. What, 11 p.m.? That's okay. Your gym's probably 24 hours.
Exactly.
You can actually go right now, guys.
So, but yeah.
Beautiful. Anyway, I look forward to listening and then watching this grow. And
you're going to come back in the future?
I will.
And we'll have a bigger talk.
I will tell you all about how the AI has gone, and and we'll look back and say, wow, remember when ChatGPT was only starting out?
And then it becomes something even bigger. Yeah.
That's it. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, bye guys.